Justin Trudeau's Liberals examined a path to force complete ideological conformity regarding LGBTQ issues, and they were going to use government funding as their coercive blackmail tool. Power is tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Now, that's a quote from George Orwell's 1984, and it's never been more true than in Justin Trudeau's Canada, where one of the most mindless politicians on the face of the earth wants to rip apart your mind and replace your thoughts with his own shallow and scarce ones. Now, Rebel News has just republished 1984 with gorgeous new illustrations from renowned artist Paul Ravoche. To get your copy, go to buy1984book.com. Now, Justin Trudeau's Liberals have been looking for ways to force complete ideological homogeneity and fealty to Liberal Party values using government funding as both the carrot and the stick against those who do not fall in line. It's here in Blacklock's Reporter, an independent news organization which will never take a penny from the federal government. Blacklock's does incredible accountability journalism, and for that, the mainstream media, of course, prickles against them. Take a look at their story today. Cabinet commissioned in-house research on banning federal funding to any Canadian organization unaccepting of LGBTQ individuals, records show. A Privy Council report also discussed preferential funding for pride communities like LGBTQ scholarships. Findings were drawn from LGBTQ focus groups in Toronto and Montreal. Participants were questioned why the process to normalize, protect, and include LGBTQ communities was not moving faster, believing there needed to be greater urgency on the part of the federal government, said the report. Continuous qualitative data collection of Canadians' views. The priorities needed to be implemented across all regions of the country, including in rural communities and not just in major urban centers, wrote researchers. A number of participants expressed the need for further federal resources for queer-led community initiatives, as well as scholarships and grants for LGBTQ individuals pursuing higher education, they added. A few also suggested that action be taken to reduce or rescind existing federal grants from any community organizations that were currently unaccepting of LGBTQ individuals. A few also suggested that action be taken to reduce or rescind existing federal grants from any community organizations that were currently unaccepting of LGBTQ individuals, said Canadians' Views. A smaller number of participants also expressed support for the initiatives to engage all Canadians in fostering a more inclusive future and embed issues in the work of the Government of Canada. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention to Justin Trudeau and his attacks on Christianity since taking office, none of this should be surprising. Approximately 5 years ago, Justin Trudeau forced a Liberal Party loyalty test on faith-based organizations which applied for the Canada Summer Jobs Grant program. That's a youth employment program which many churches and faith-based organizations used to fund low-cost summer camps. Applicants needed to sign an attestation to the Liberal Party's radical worldview on LGBTQ rights, abortion, access, and gender theory. What resulted were hundreds of organizations that were unable to sign the attestation in good faith, ending jobs and camp opportunities for vulnerable and marginalized kids, the very kids Liberals say they care about helping. And Justin Trudeau's attacks on religious orthodoxy didn't end there. He also turned his ire on the religious within his own party. He spared no one. He refused to sign the nomination papers of his own pro-life candidates who had won their nominations fair and square. This all, of course, is the absolute politicization of public dollars to enforce the Liberal Party worldview on people who have an indisputable charter right to hold whatever religious worldview they want.
When did this evolve, in your view, into a pro-choice party?
Perhaps when they chose a resolutely pro-choice leader.
You shouldn't have to agree with Justin Trudeau to qualify for public funding, because after all, it's not Justin Trudeau's government, and it's not his money. It's Canada's, and that means all of us. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. Our new Rebel News documentary details Justin Trudeau's attacks on Christianity, which culminated in the incarcerations and fining of pastors who stood up to the COVID mandates. You can learn more about our documentary and find out about a screening near you at savethechristians.com.